Buffalo. Wheeler finished the game with 80 yards rushing on 19 carries. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Snakes ain't always in the grass. Sharks ain't always in the water. Thieves ain't always in the night. God ain't always at the altar. I learned to live with one eye open. Days getting bit a couple times to know that snakes ain't always in the grass. Sharks ain't always in the water. Snakes don't just slither. Sweet comes before bitter. Saints versus the sinners. I just roll with the winners. I just roll up my sleeves, roll up the windows. Everybody got hidden agendas. They got kids not getting agenda. If not chicken, they tender like Chick-fil-A on the Christian day. Watch Weezy walk on water, turn a shark on the water to fish fillet. Don't forget to pray, don't forget your play pickleball with my today. Pockets heavy, I got bricks to lay. Tell them eat your heart out and lick the plate. Can't trust nobody. Where was everybody at when I was just nobody? Just a menace to society. Pockets itching like psoriasis. Thieves in the night move cool like the breeze in the night. Fiends for the pipe speed at the light and scream for the Christ Lord. God ain't always at the altar. Cross your heart before departure.
KBLA Talk 1580. I'm so excited to have my friend and colleague back on the show. She is America's go-to expert host and commentator on all kinds of legal, political, women's, children's, and celebrity issues. She's got TV credits, co-hosting the Emmy Award-winning daytime talk show The Doctors, Face the Truth on CBS. She hosted a show here for many years. She's the host of The Special Report with Areva Martin. You see her all the time on CNN. She's a regular contributor there. Winner of the 2023 Anthem Silver Award for highlighting racial disparities, and so much more. Attorney Areva Martin, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. I'm just loving that intro. I don't know. I assume you put it together. It's phenomenal. It's so humbling to hear. Thank you. Thank you, my sister. Thank you, my sister.
Oh, God.
Start with that.
The crazy thing is I didn't even get through half of your accomplishments. It was just like very surfacey. You are just a dynamo and a powerhouse, and we're so appreciative for all that you do, Attorney Areva Martin.
Well, thank you. And, you know, the feeling is quite mutual. I just love and respect you for everything that you do. And always, you know, leaning into these very tough topics. When I got the list of things we were talking about today, I said, yep, that's what I expect from Dominique, to be covering all the tough stuff. So,
well, some of it is because I know your legal mind is going to give us some insight, and maybe in ways that, you know, I hadn't thought about, or that the implications to these things that, you know, aren't obvious, right? So we've been talking a lot, for example, about the federal police takeover in D.C., the federal takeover of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, how it seems that they are really going into the hood and harassing black men and arresting them and sort of bringing back the stop and frisk aspect of it. I know he's got, like a 30-day window because of this home rule law, but it seems very unconstitutional and very illegal.
Yeah, one thing we have to note off the bat, Dominique, is that D.C. is not a state. So it's a district. It has its own unique, legal, formation. It was formed by the Constitution very differently than the states are, and it gives the president a tremendous amount of power. And we know that D.C. has been fighting for statehood for years, but it has been unsuccessful, primarily over partisan politics, because the question is, if it becomes a state, is it going to become a blue or red state? So it does not have many of the same protections under the Constitution that, say, a state like California or Texas has. That's why Trump can use it. But it's also important to note that this is right out of, the 1950s, 1960s racist playbook of white Southern politicians to gin up the news about crime, to exaggerate it, and then to come in with these really harsh tactics, and in this case, the deployment of federal troops, to say that it's going to take a politician like Donald Trump, that he is the only one that can solve crime. And we should brace ourselves, because it's not likely to just stop with D.C. He is targeting other cities led by black mayors. There's talk of Oakland. We know he's been really critical of Baltimore, Maryland. He's been incredibly critical of Chicago and the African-American male mayor, Brandon Johnson, in Chicago. So this may just be the beginning of us seeing federal troops used in cities throughout this country, particularly blue Democratic cities led by black mayors.
I mean, when they arrested my brother, when Homeland Security arrested my brother, ICE, and put him in detention for a day, I said, as the first black mayor this administration is arresting, I just don't think it will be the last. And now we're seeing this targeting. We haven't seen any arrests yet, but we're seeing disparagement, the threat to take over the cities. Which, can they do that? What would the legal justification look like? They were even talking about removing Governor Newsom.
Well, no. In terms of states like California, states like New Jersey, where your brother is a mayor of a city in New Jersey, no, we're not going to see the federal government take over those states. But he can flex a great deal of power. He can wield a great deal of power, like we saw him sending the federal troops into L.A. With respect to ICE detentions, and under the guise of addressing, what he calls out of control immigration in cities like LA. The federal government does have a tremendous amount of power to use Homeland Security if the president declares, which he did in the case of LA, a state of emergency, made the bogus claim that somehow federal troops and federal property were being threatened by what he called riots, which we know were not, I don't even know. I mean, he's just bastardized so many words. There was no riot happening in Los Angeles. There were protests happening in a very small geographic region in downtown over ICE raids and ICE detentions. So the short answer is no takeover of states, duly organized, legally recognized states like California and New Jersey. But yes, the use of federal troops can be deployed in certain instances like we saw in Los Angeles. And you can't help, Dominique, but take this whole conversation back to the November 2024 election. So much of what we are seeing in this administration is what was promised from this administration. And people either didn't believe the promises or somehow thought that there would be some magical intervention from someone that would prevent the lawlessness of this president. But many of the actions being taken are exactly what he promised he would do.
I mean, but Attorney Areva Martin, he can just say it's an emergency. There's no metrics like the following conditions have to be present for this to be an emergency. I mean, crime is down 26% in D.C. Crime in L.A. is down. As you stated, those protests were taking place in very isolated, small areas of a tiny part of L.A. He can I mean, there's no accountability. There's no metrics. He can just say it's an emergency.
Under a functioning three-part governing, body, if we had a governing Congress, if we had a Senate that was functioning, absolutely not. But what we have now are sycophants in Congress, in the Senate. We have Republicans who are leading both of those houses of government, the Congress and the Senate, and who are unwilling to challenge him, who are unwilling to use the power vested in them by the Constitution to be a check on the executive branch of government. No, you're absolutely correct. If we had a Congress that really took seriously its job, which is to be a check on the executive branch, absolutely not. We wouldn't see this president yielding the kind of power that he is. But Mike Johnson is, serving at the pleasure of the president. Let's talk about what's happening in Texas, the redistricting, the drawing of the 5 maps. Donald Trump thinks it, and Republicans make it happen. He said it out loud. Let's redistrict, maps around the country, particularly in these red states, so that we can maintain power during the 2026 election. And it's happening. It's happening in Texas. Ohio, Missouri, and other red states are looking at how they can do the very same. 2 days ago, he said, I don't want mail-in ballots to be a part of the 2026 election.
Here we go.
And here we go.
Yeah.
Republican states looking at how they can use their Republican-controlled state legislatures to enact laws to prevent the use of mail-in ballots. We're suffering from a double whammy here. Republican control of our House, of the Senate, basically controlling our U.S. Supreme Court, and in many states around the country having a supermajority in the state houses, such as Texas, such as Missouri, such as Ohio. So they can enact laws at the state level, which disenfranchise millions of voters, have it challenged, in courts, have those court cases go up to the Supreme Court, and have their actions validated by a Republican-controlled Supreme Court. Again, I go back to where were millions and millions of voters during the 2024 election? Were we just asleep at the switch? Had people checked out? Had people just given up? Or people were so, misled? The gaslighting was so severe, so pervasive, that people just somehow thought magically the lies would not become reality. And here we are.
Meanwhile, Texas Democratic State Representative Nicole Collier had to spend the night on the House floor because Republicans locked her in there after she refused to be placed under the watch of the State Department of Public Safety, because they're trying to force these Democrats to vote so that they can have a quorum, so they can enact the maps that you're talking about and hand 5 seats to Trump, so they can keep this majority in the House going and keep this non-check, non-balanced situation that we have going on between the branches of government into the foreseeable future. Honestly, Attorney Areva Martin, I believed the hype. I believed Project 2025, and I did, but I didn't see it happening this fast, this furious, and this blatantly. We'll get your thoughts on that when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief, and boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions, like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hey, it's Matt, your leaf filter trusted pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by visiting leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water. And it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty. So you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help. Visit Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate, and you could save up to 30%. Visit leaffilter.com/deal. That's leaffilter.com/deal.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
It does, and attorney Areva Martin is my guest. So excited to have her here. I guess every single Democrat in the Texas state government agreed to be escorted to sign something, which basically they had to get a written permission to leave their job, and they assigned to be under law enforcement. They agreed to be under law enforcement escort until they reconvene on Wednesday, except for Representative Collier, who said no to that. And they are now holding her captive inside the state building. There's protesters down there chanting, "Let her out, let her out." Of course it's a black woman. Of course it is.
Yeah, what's happening in Texas is just, as you said, beyond the pale, beyond the imagination, beyond what we expected, including those of us, like you said, who understood Project 2025 and believed it and believed that it would be implemented. We did not see coming, though, I must say, Dominique, this attack at the state level and this strategizing by Republicans to rig the midterm elections to create permanent. It's not just the midterm elections. Think about if they are successful, the way the country is divided along, party lines at this point, even if every Democratic governor like Gavin Newsom decided to enact a law to redraw its maps, the Republicans have more, I'll say, cars or toys in the sandbox to play with. And just the numbers, the way the math works out, they would be able to create more Republican districts than what Democrats can create. And so we could have a situation where permanently the House of Representatives is in the hands of Republicans. And we know how the Senate maps work out. It's already very difficult for us to win the U.S. Senate. And with the Supreme Court being, lifetime appointments and this 6-3 majority that they hold, this is very serious. I just, say all of this to say this is not something that is we should just think of as a one-off and something that's just happening for this election in this season in Texas.
Yeah, see, this is one of the things I've been saying repeatedly, Attorney Martin, is that what they're trying to do is create a permanent majority in the House of Representatives, which is perfectly, it perfectly aligns with the fact that that in reality they have less voters. I mean, if the maps were fair, there would be more Democrats in the House right now because we cast more votes. If you look at the number of votes, we win. But since they've got these weirdly shaped, gerrymandered maps, they win. And to your point, I guess what you're saying is that no matter what Gavin Newsom and Dems in California do and other states do, they win the gerrymandering arms race.
Well, the math in a way that the Republicans, if all of the red states decided to do what Texas is doing, even if Democrats tried to respond or responded by redrawing our maps, we just don't have the numbers. But with that being said, we must give tremendous kudos to Gavin Newsom because he is taking on Trump in a way that we've not seen other Democrats do. It's what Democrats have been clamoring for. Democrats have been saying, where are our leaders? Why aren't we fighting fire with fire? Why are we still assuming that we live in a world where you can reason with Republicans, that they're logical Republicans? Why are we denying the fact that the Republican Party is now the Trump Party and Trump doesn't play by any rules? He makes the rules up as he goes. He discards those he doesn't like, and he follows those that he creates. That's the bottom line.
And he changes them on a whim. I mean,
he makes them up as he goes.
Yeah.
And when he's done with one rule and no longer serves his purpose, he discards it and creates another one. So there are no rules in the Trump world, and that is the Republican Party. He is the Republican Party. And the Republicans that stand up to him face retribution. They face being primaried.
Yeah.
They face ouster. They face being ostracized by their party. And that is a huge, incentive for those to fall in line and to stay in line. So, but what Governor Newsom is doing is at least saying we won't take this line down. The math may not math in our favor, but we are going to fight back. And he is encouraging other governors, such as those in Illinois and other blue states, to do the same. And that's the only way I think we're going to have any success. And I hope that this becomes so incredibly ridiculous that the voters become so outraged by these blatant attempts at cheating, let's call it what it is, cheating and disenfranchising millions of voters, that there's a backlash, that Republicans, even with their redrawn maps, suffer a tremendous backlash.
Yeah, I mean, I think the backlash is coming, and the backlash is going to be real, not just for the redistricting, for the student loan debt that they're forcing people back into paying and reneging on prior agreements and programs, for the spending on wars and on immigration. I mean, the ICE Homeland Security budget at the expense of other things like schools and roads. I think that the overreach in terms of stripping our rights is going to cause a backlash. The question is, what happens then? Because if they've already gerrymandered a permanent majority, they have the Supreme Court. As you said, the Senate, well, you didn't say this, but the Senate is unfair because Rhode Island has 2 senators and California has 2 senators. Makes no sense. Until we fix those things, get rid of the Electoral College, have proportional representation in the Senate, and get rid of big money in campaigns, I don't see even people waking up and voting en masse unless we really hit the streets in a way that has some urgency. I just don't see the way forward.
Well, I think obviously it is a very grim state of affairs at this moment, but I am seeing some glimmers of hope. And one, you just mentioned taking to the streets. And yes, people will be pushed so far, their backs will be up the wall, and people will feel like they have no choice. but to take to the streets. And we've seen that happen in U.S. history before. So I think we are getting very, very close to that happening. But also, I was reading an article this morning about the gutting of the Department of Education. And they basically have no staff at the department. And the Office of Civil Rights enforcement in that department has been gutted to the point that any complaints that you may file in terms of school discrimination, there's just not staff to handle it. But there's also something happening that I think could have a profound impact on voters, not the MAGA voters, because those people are, many of them essentially, and historians and psychologists and other experts say many of those voters are basically acting like they are part of a cult, and they are acting in a way that may be, the deprogramming of them may take decades. But there are, I think, enough voters who maybe lean Republican, maybe still consider themselves independent, that we might be able to get them to vote in a different way, particularly because the Department of Education has decided that they are putting as their priority with their small staff investigating claims of discrimination against white students and any claims of, the promoting of transgender students in school. And they are totally ignoring those claims involving discrimination of students of color and disabled students. And I think about the disabled population. That doesn't break down along racial lines. There are as many, if not more, disabled white students as there are students of color. And I have to believe that those families, those parents of those disabled students who are going to suffer tremendously under this decimated Department of Education, that they are not going to tolerate the abuses that their students will suffer under this administration. So that gives me a little glimmer of hope. That gives me some hope that there are still some coalitions that can be assembled that will fight back against the punitive nature of so many of these policies under Donald Trump.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I keep saying fearless is the way forward. We pledge courage around here every day. We're not giving up. But when we come forward, I do want to talk more about his war on mail-in ballots. What does that look like? What does it mean? How do we fight back against it? Is it even legal? Attorney Areva Martin is my guest on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon John Zimbro ground on O'Hare's new Concourse D, a $1.3 billion expansion adding 19 gates, lounges, shops, and a kids' play area.
With the improvements that we will make in Concourse D alone, we are generating more than 3,800 construction jobs, which creates a ripple effect across Chicago's entire community.
The project aims to boost travel and business with completion set for late 2028. Black DeKalb County officer David Rose was killed near the CDC in Atlanta after confronting a gunman who fired over 500 rounds. Rose leaves behind a pregnant wife and 2 children. And Amanda Seals takes on 20 black conservatives in Jubilee's viral debate surrounded challenging claims that systemic racism doesn't exist. She defends reparations, safe spaces, and black history. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, they've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself. Shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the takeover? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A rough night Monday for both of LA's baseball teams. The Dodgers failed to keep their momentum after a 3-game sweep of San Diego over the weekend. They lost to Colorado 4-3. Colorado third baseman Warming Bernabell hit a game-winning single in the bottom of the ninth to snap Colorado's 10-game losing streak to the Dodgers. The Angels lost at home to Cincinnati 4-1. The Angels did not score after the first inning. Cincinnati had 3 triples last night, one by shortstop Ellie De La Cruz, considered by many the most exciting player in the game today. Former Howard University running back Ian Wheeler took a major step toward earning a roster spot with the Chicago Bears. Wheeler is an undrafted free agent from the popular HBCU school in D.C. He scored 2 touchdowns in the Bears' 38-0 preseason win over Buffalo. Wheeler finished the game with 80 yards rushing on 19 carries. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Some things can steal your sunshine.
Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
There's one question every couple needs to answer. What if something happens to us? Kids, a house, a life you've built, but no estate plan? That's a risk you don't want to take. With Trust and Will, it's fast, secure, and easy to protect what matters most. Start your plan today at trustandwill.com. Use code RADIO to save 20%. Check it off your list. One less thing to worry about. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will. Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, so attorney Areva Martin is my guest. You can find her on all of the social media platforms. How do we watch your pod?
Yes, you can watch my podcast, The Special Report with Areva Martin, on my YouTube station. And I often post, I regularly post clips on my Instagram page and on my Facebook page. But just follow me at Areva Martin, and you will be able to watch all of the shows. You can go back and watch old shows. I have a lot of conversations going on similar to what we're having today. Just trying to keep folks informed, Dominique. You know, there's so much information that comes at all of us on a regular, and it's hard to know what's trusted information, what's false, and what's fabricated. And I just try to give it to people, real and the facts, and some of my strong opinions about those facts, but definitely, keeping folks informed. And I'm so glad you're having this conversation about voting, because before we went to break, you said you wanted to talk about, what role, if any, does Donald Trump have in running elections, and can he unilaterally just determine that we're not going to vote by mail? And the answer to that is categorically no, he cannot do that. Now, will that stop him from issuing an executive order? The answer to that is probably no as well. But American people need to know, your listeners need to know, that the president has no role in running elections. That power by the Constitution is vested, including the times, place, and manners of elections with states. And only Congress has the ability to override state laws on voting. We talked about our weak Congress and the fact that, it's run by sycophants of Donald Trump, but the reality is election laws are set and passed by states.
I mean, it seems like he went into the meeting with Vladimir Putin and came out like Putin is the Trump whisperer. The Ukrainians have to give up Crimea, and you must get rid of mail-in ballots. He just comes out parroting everything Putin wanted him to say like a little marionette. But the part that's confusing to me is he's saying he wants to get rid of voting machines. Like, this dude thinks we're going to hand count paper ballots for the entire country?
Well, keep in mind, Donald Trump has no policy chops, right? I mean, most of the policies that he wants to enact have no reality, have no, they're not grounded and rooted in our Constitution or any precedent, laws, or even just practicality. So we have to start with that premise. And also note that there was a $67 million settlement a day or two ago against Dominion, the voting election machines company that had already, secured about $787 million from Fox News. So Donald Trump and his very small brain, his conspiracy, leaning brain, decided that it is the voting machines and mail-in ballots is the reason that he lost the election that he lost. He will never, ever believe that the voting in that election that he lost was fair, that there wasn't voter fraud. That would, cause him to believe that he failed at something. And in his mind, he can't fail. It has to be somebody else's fault. But again, this quest to change the voting laws is going to run into significant roadblocks. A, the Constitution, and B, state election officials who have gone on record saying that their voting practices are safe and secure, that there wasn't widespread fraud in any of our recent elections. And many of those Secretary of States, including some in Republican states, have already vowed to challenge any efforts to change the voting laws, particularly to eliminate mail-in voting. And then it's important to note, Dominique, Republicans have spent millions of dollars over the last several years investing in mail-in voting because they realized Democrats had an advantage, that we were getting folks to vote early and banking millions and millions of votes. And Republicans realized that they needed to get in the game. So they started touting the benefits of early voting, mail-in voting. So, again, Trump doesn't even confer with his own party.
Yeah, he's not up to date. I mean, especially in places like Florida where you have so many older adults voting, and they are going to rely on mail-in ballots. It's actually an advantage in certain states for Republicans, but this dude is not up to date, so he doesn't know that. I just want to clarify what you said about the Dominion voting systems, because I haven't talked about it on the show, which is that Newsmax, which is like, Fox News's thuggish big brother. Yeah, they're the ones paying the $67 million to Dominion because they lied and said that the company had rigged votes in 2020. So, for whatever reason, I guess he's got immunity. Is that what it is? Like, Trump can keep saying this, but if a news organization says it, like Fox or Newsmax, they're going to pay millions.
Yes, you're right. Newsmax had to pay Dominion $67 million, and Fox had to pay Dominion over $700 million for making those fallacious statements about rigged voting machines. Donald Trump does enjoy a tremendous amount of presidential immunity, and the Supreme Court has basically said he's above reproach, above the law. So, yes, he continues to spread these false statements, these lies about the 2020 election, that it was rigged, that it was, election officials who cheated, who threw away ballots, who miscounted ballots, who did everything under the sun to cause him to lose the election. And he has become fixated, which we know he has a tendency to do, on mail-in ballots and voting machines. And you're right. I don't know what he expects over 150 million ballots cast in the last election to have some poor election volunteer workers counting by hand, which he will then, if there's a loss, he will then also claim that it was rigged, that there was cheating, that there was fraud. So there is not going to be a scenario under which he doesn't cry foul unless he wins.
Yeah.
Only when he wins are the voting, laws and voting procedures accurate. So there's no pleasing this guy.
Well, you brought up the point that even though he is not over elections, the states make election rules, laws, and implement their own programs. He made an executive order. And executive orders are not laws. They're just orders. They can be overturned by the next president. They can be found to be illegal. But right now he's ruling through executive order. And as in your point about the Department of Education, USAID, and so many other things that he's dismantled through executive order, by the time the courts find it illegal or another president overturns it, it may be too late to put it back, right?
Well, yes, and let's be clear, as you just said, and you're correct, executive orders are not law. Only Congress, our U.S. Congress, legislative body has the ability to pass laws in this country. But what he does through these executive orders is he signals to Republicans, both in the House, the Senate, and at the state legislative level, what he wants to see done. So he is signaling to these state houses to change their election laws based on his executive order. So it will be interesting to see, again, is this one of these areas where he's going too far? Because I cannot imagine that any Secretary of State, even in a red state, wants to eliminate mail-in ballots for the reasons you just identified. Obviously, there are elderly people who can't vote during COVID. If we didn't have mail-in ballots, we would not have basically had elections. People were not going to come out and stand in lines and expose themselves to COVID. Mail-in ballots have been proven to be safe and secure. And I cannot imagine that any Secretary of State is going to try to advocate for changing the laws to go back to hand counting millions and millions of ballots. I mean, you talk about error, an opportunity for human error. It's with hand counting. We know that these voting machines are far more efficient and accurate in elections. So I think even in Republican states, Donald Trump will have a huge battle with Secretary of State and other voting officials in states if he tries to force these Republicans to eliminate mail-in ballots and, voting machines.
Oh, we haven't forgotten. When we come forward, I want to get your thoughts, Attorney Areva Martin, on what is happening with the Jeffrey Epstein files. No, we're not distracted. We can focus on more than one thing at once. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase. Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatallzearly.com. That's treatallzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? You may be able to reduce your risk by managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure, being physically active, eating healthy, and exercising your mind. To learn more about AD, the importance of early diagnosis and intervention, and a potential treatment option, visit treatallzearly.com. That's treatallzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney Areva Martin is my guest this hour. Don't forget to check out her podcast, The Special Report, available on her YouTube channel, or get the little clips on her Instagram. Okay, so the Epstein situation continues to percolate. Mike Johnson hurriedly sent people out of Congress for summer recess, hoping this thing would go away, but it has not gone away. In fact, supposedly, per Representative James Comer of Kentucky, some of those Epstein files will start to go to the House Oversight Committee no later than Friday. And that is going to be a drip, drip, drip. It's going to take a while, which means this thing, we're going to be talking about this thing for weeks. Apparently, there's a press conference with victims of Epstein and Maxwell taking place the second day after Congress is back in session, and there's more.
Yeah, this is a debacle of Trump's own making. We have to remember that Donald Trump ran on a platform of forcing the Department of Justice and the swamp, as he liked to refer to Washington, to release these files. And he riled up his base because the thought, was that there was going to be all these revelations of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Obama and who knows who, every prominent Democrat in the world would be exposed and have some kind of relationship with this pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein. And then the tables turn. Trump gets into office, and it turns out there isn't all this dirt on Democrats in these files, and instead there are references to Donald Trump and photographs of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. So now the clamor to release the files turns into a murmur at best, and Donald Trump, says there's no there, and the base says, oh, no, wait a minute. No. You spent the last, 4 years telling us that if you're back in office, you're going to force the release of these files. Even Joe Rogan, Republican podcast host, biggest probably on the planet at this moment, is not letting the story go. The base is not letting the story go. Republican lawmakers are being heckled back in their home state, in the hometown, because of their handling.
I love that so much.
I mean, the infighting between the FBI and the U.S. Attorney General, it's been a complete mess. And William Barr, former Attorney General under Donald Trump, first term, was deposed recently, and he said he didn't see Donald Trump's name. Well, first he said two things. He says, one, there was no big client list. Everyone thought there was going to be some revelation, some client list of all the other pedophiles that Jeffrey Epstein, was associated with, who was having sex with minors. William Barr says there is no client list. And then his second revelation during this deposition, again, apparently or allegedly, is that Donald Trump's name is not prominent in any of these files. But it begs the question, Dominique, if his name is not prominent, according to William Barr, then why not release the files? Why the concerted efforts of battle to keep these files secret, all the distractions, like you said, Mike Johnson literally sending Congress people home rather than having them in Washington doing their jobs just to avoid having to have now this public hearing that oversight is apparently prepared to do once they receive these files.
I mean, the thing about Bill Barr also, come on now, how credible is he on that?
Well, I don't think he's how credible is any of this information going to be coming from this Attorney General? We cannot have any confidence that these records have not been redacted, that Donald Trump's name has not been scrubbed.
Right. He hasn't taken a Sharpie
records
to them. Right.
Yes. Yes, we're going to get some files, but how reliable? I would say not very.
But on the other hand, at least 11 Republicans have gone over to the Democrat side on this, and they're going to try to force a vote as soon as they come back, force a vote to release those files to the public. If they can do that, then that means it's going to be trouble for Republicans because their base is not going to be happy if they don't support the release of the files. It's like I said, there's a press conference planned for the second day back, and the public questioning doesn't seem to be letting up. People still want to know. Carl Tucker is in the chat asking me what's so important to you about the Epstein files. Well, I just think that, number one, where there's smoke, there's fire. Number two, there are too many shenanigans. Why was Ghislaine Maxwell moved to a minimum security prison? Why is Trump, trying to distract us so much? If there is culpability, this vast conspiracy of pedophiles, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, they should be held to account. That's not a partisan issue to me.
Well, it's so ironic that the thing that the Republicans and Dems can agree on are the Epstein files. And the clamor from the Republican base is not over tariffs, not over the job losses, not over inflation and the high price of everything in this country right now, not over the ICE, detention of hardworking people in this country, but over these files. And this may be the issue that causes the demise of Trump. We talked about all these other issues, gerrymandering and, his efforts to eviscerate mail-in voting, but it's the Epstein files, this issue, which is resonating with his base, and Democrats, of course, are riding the coattails, I would say, because I don't think this is the issue that ordinarily would be motivating Democrats in the way that it is. But I'm glad to see Democrats taking advantage of this opportunity to cause these files to be released and watch Donald Trump squirm. I mean, talk about an issue that makes him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, this makes him so incredibly uncomfortable, which, as you just said, makes us have to believe there's more there than what we are being told.
I mean, the fact that Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden, has said that Melania was introduced to Donald by Jeffrey Epstein, and now the First Lady is threatening to sue Hunter Biden for $1 billion, and Hunter is not backing down. That right there could be part of the problem. I mean, if in fact that is true, I'm sure he doesn't want that out there.
Oh, my God. He doesn't want any affiliation. We already have seen photographs, right, with him, with Epstein. We've seen something he wrote in the so-called birthday book when Epstein was having a birthday. So we know that there's affiliation. And in Donald Trump fashion, of course, now he's bashing the guy. He's bashing anyone that was associated with the guy. But Donald Trump had a life, and his life was what would have been considered scandals that would have made him ineligible to even run for president. We cannot forget that, whether it's allegations of sexual assault, not just, ties to Jeffrey Epstein, but we can't forget all the women that alleged that Donald Trump had sexually assaulted them, the grab them by the pee tape that came out before the election. I mean, if you look at this guy's resume, Dominique, he has more things on that resume that makes him unfit and unqualified to be the president than any president probably in the history of this country. But yet here we are, the country accepting him not once, but voting for him again. And it's kind of ironic, again, to me, that this is the issue. All the issues that we can think about, 300,000 black women out of jobs.
Right.
The billions and billions of dollars are being given to private companies to build these detention centers. All of the graft, all of the corruption in this Trump administration, the billions of dollars that he and his family are making because they're leveraging the presidential office. But yet this is the issue that has MAGA up in arms.
This is the issue that's sticking to the Teflon Don, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. We don't know what we'll find out, but it's going to be some smoking guns in there. Attorney Areva Martin, it's always such a pleasure to talk with us. Remind us again how to follow you. You got so much going on.
Yes, all things social at Areva Martin. Check out my podcast, The Special Report with Areva Martin, on YouTube. Subscribe to my page and join me in the conversation. I love to hear from my viewers, my listeners. Love to be in conversation with folks because these issues matter. People, we got this wrong in 2024. We've got to correct the course. We've got to course correct, and I think we have an opportunity to do so. And programs like yours are helping educate people on why it's so important that we pay attention.
Appreciate you, Attorney Areva Martin.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, we are talking all human rights. We're talking trans rights, culture, and celebrations. A big celebration. You're invited. All that's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon John Zimbro ground on O'Hare's new Concourse D, a $1.3 billion expansion adding 19 gates, lounges, shops, and a kids' play area.
With the improvements that we will make in Concourse